Welcome into the 2023 Fantasy Baseball Preview for the Los Angeles Angels. I appreciate you all tuning in. Before we get into things, let's talk a little bit of business, Connor. My name is Dave Eddy. This is Connor Thomure over here. We've been doing all of the American League videos here. Jason and JP are doing the National League. We're pumping out a video a day until we get all the way through. We started February 1st. If you've been enjoying these videos, go ahead and drop a like down there for us. Show us a little bit of love. Let us know you've been enjoying them. If you've been missing out, I highly suggest you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you can get an alert every time one of these new videos come out. And probably most importantly, head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans. You can go ahead and sign up for our all access package, get you access to our award-winning rankings. There's draft tools, and then probably my favorite thing, the Discord, gets you access directly to guys like Connor and myself and everyone else at Fantasy Six Pack, along with all the other subscribers. And you can have a jolly old conversation about PGA, about hockey, basketball, you name it, we got it. But Connor, you ready to talk some Angels baseball?
I'm ready.
All right, buddy. Let's hop into it. Let's go ahead and pop up their starting lineup there. And we're going to start off at the top with Taylor Ward. We got Mike Trout, followed by Shohei Ohtani, of course. Anthony Rendon in the 4-hole. We got Hunter Renfroe, followed by Brandon Drury, Jared Walsh, Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate, and then we rounded out with Luis Rengifo. All right, let's talk here a little bit. I want to start with, I think, the biggest question in my mind for this team is Brandon Drury and Taylor Ward. Both had career years, even though, Ward's was a little bit cut short last season. Do you trust either one or both to repeat their success, or who do you trust more out of that group?
I trust Taylor Ward more. Like you said, he was on a Hall of Fame projection at the start of the year, and then the injury cut it short for a little bit, and then he came back and he was terrible to start it off. And it's like, maybe we did see the best he has to offer. But I'm looking at his stats from, September through the end of the season, and he was really good. He slashed 345, 397, 575. And I think those numbers at the end of the year are really giving me confidence in him this year. And I'm willing to trust him and take a risk on him.
Yeah, I think he's a guy, same thing with Drury, where you'd have to draft him, I'm just not interested. I feel like I would need to get such a steal on those guys that they're just never going to be available. If I had to pick one, I guess I would pick Taylor Ward just because he did have the better of the what I'll call fluky kind of seasons. But
Yeah.
Either way, I mean, I think, we're burying the headline here because we got Trout and we got Ohtani. And, those guys could finish 1-2 in whatever league, whatever format that you're in. Like they're obviously just that good. I mean, you could argue they're the two best players in all of baseball. I mean, do you really have any concerns about drafting either one of those two guys, or are you just in at their ADP if you can get a hold of them?
I mean, you got to have some concern about Mike Trout with, his injury history. Hopefully he could play a full season. If he plays a full season, like you said, he's one of the best players in baseball, if not the best.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit concerned, though, about the injury. So if he falls to me, then I'll be more than happy to take him.
Yeah, I mean, fair point, obviously. And with Ohtani, I mean, he's amazing, but it really does. He's the one player where format matters the most. If it's a daily league, Ohtani is number one. He is number one. If he drops past number one, it's just a monumental mistake. If you're in a weekly league, it really limits, what you get from him because you pretty much have to play him as a batter. And that's fine because he's still an elite hitter, but you lose out on what makes him so special. The fact that he can do both at a high level. So for daily leagues, it's Ohtani and then, everybody else. In weekly leagues, now he starts to fit in, like the middle of the first round kind of thing. Other guy I want to talk about here because I find it really interesting. I think we've entered an interesting, spot for him, and that's Anthony Rendon. When healthy, the dude is an elite fantasy option, but we really haven't seen a whole lot of that. Definitely not in long stretches. I think it's now to the point where, he's so undervalued and just so untrusted that I could argue that he's now like a sleeper, kind of pick. What do you think about like that thought? Like, do you think that Rendon is now, his ADP is now in a spot where he's got some sleeper potential? Like, is he a guy that you're willing to take a flyer on in like the middle to the latest type rounds?
Yeah, currently it looks like he's going pretty late, and it feels weird calling him a sleeper, but that's exactly what he is.
Right.
Yeah, I'm 100% down to take that risk on him because we saw what he did in 2019, and I don't think he'll do it right away. I don't think he'll get back to the 2019 Anthony Rendon, but if he gets close to that, then he's one of the top third basemen in baseball, fantasy-wise, and especially with the lineup around him. If the rest of the lineup around him stays healthy and he stays healthy, there's a chance he gets 115 RBI this season.
Yeah, and we were talking, before we were recording here, the 1 through 7 is full of risk. Like there's like every single line you can sit there and be like, man, this guy has got such great potential, but boy, he also could really, really hurt you. It's an interesting lineup, and it goes to your point of if things were to fall correctly with this lineup, Rendon could be a really, really, really good player, especially for where you're able to draft him. So I think this is a team where, probably outside of Trout and Ohtani, it's really what is your risk tolerance? How much are you willing to risk things? Because that's what every one of these players ends up becoming, in my opinion. All right, let's go ahead and move on over to the starting pitching. And of course, we're going to have a familiar name at the top, Shohei Ohtani. We're going to go 6 deep here because Ohtani is such a unique player. They roll out a 6-man rotation to kind of protect him a little bit. But in the 2 spot, we got Tyler Anderson, followed by Patrick Sandoval, Jose Suarez, Reed Detmers, and Tucker Davidson. So we've already talked about Ohtani. So I'm pretty confident skipping him here unless there's something you want to end up getting back to pitching specific. But I'm going to talk and start off here with Tyler Anderson. I had an outstanding season last year, but didn't really strike a whole lot of batters out. And, depends on how you like to build your team. That either could not be a concern or it could be a big problem. So is this a guy that, that you're concerned with the strikeout numbers, or do you not really care?
I don't really care as long as I get other players that can, build around him that get some strikeouts. Like if you pair him with, say, like a Christian Javier, someone who gets, more than double-digit Ks per 9 innings, you pair those two together, then that's perfectly fine. But if you get an Anderson, you get some other players that don't get many strikeouts, you might find yourself falling behind in those categories. So that's just something you got to watch out for. I'm a bit nervous if you'll be able to repeat last year. Last year seemed a bit like an outlier for him. He was really dominant for most of the season there with the Dodgers. We'll see how he does with the Angels now, still in Los Angeles, but with the lesser team, obviously.
Right. Now, besides Ohtani and Anderson, anybody else in that rotation there that piques your interest?
Patrick Sandoval for sure. He has been pretty good for the most part of his career. His hard hit percentage, he keeps it down, keeps his chase rate up. He has people chasing the ball. He's a player I like. What do you think about Patrick Sandoval?
He's one of my favorite, like under the radar players, not just as a pitcher, but as a player. I have absolutely loved Sandoval for quite a while. I think that, his ratios are terrific. And you can usually get him fairly late. And I don't understand where the lack of love comes from. I think the guy is fantastic. And, I would put him ahead of Tyler Anderson on this list personally without even thinking twice about it.
Really? Okay.
I think Patrick Sandoval is ridiculously underrated. But let's go ahead and finish up here. Let's hit that bullpen now. And it's an interesting set of names here. We're using Roster Resource here to put this together, their current projection. So we're going to go off of that and say this is what we're looking at. So right now, closer, Carlos Estevez, 7th and 8th inning guys, Jimmy Herget and Ryan Tepera. And then to round it out, we got Aaron Loop, Andrew Wantz, Jose, I forget how to say that, Connor. How do you say that?
Quijada.
That's what I meant. And then Zach Weiss and Jamie Barria. Now, this is, like I said, not the prettiest looking bullpen. If you were forced to, you have to draft one of these guys.
Oh, no.
And again, you can say it's a saves league, it's a holds league, it's a saves hold league. However you want to, whatever format best suits your answer. Who are you targeting if you have to out of this mess of names?
I think I'm going with the guy up top, Carlos Estevez there. But yeah, him and Herget, I think you put those two next to each other. I don't know. You could go either way, but let's go with Estevez.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're not in a holds league, I think you probably just avoid these names. And if you get burnt by somebody, listen. If Carlos Estevez is a reason I don't win TGFBI, I can live with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That best case scenario is sorry to cut you off. Best case scenario is that early in the season we find out which one of these guys is the actual truth, and hopefully he's out there in the waivers and you're able to pick him up.
And then hopefully he claims that spot and holds on to it. We don't want closer carousel.
Nope.
All right, well, that's going to do it here for our 2023 fantasy baseball preview for the Los Angeles Angels. Again, you can throw a like on there for us if you enjoyed the video. Do yourself the favor of subscribing and turn on notifications so you can get an alert every time a new one of these videos come out. We appreciate you tuning in.